Welcome to the 2025 Path to Professionalism event hosted by the School of Management. My name is Sophie Cleophas. I'm a second-year student here at CLU, majoring in business administration with a double emphasis in marketing and innovation entrepreneurship. I also serve on the board of Women in Business as the fundraiser chair, as well as intern at CLU's Hub 101. I'll be one of your hosts tonight, but I'll also be assisted by Aaron Hart and Tika Kakimoto.
Hi everybody, I'm Erin. I'm also one of your hosts for the night. I am a senior majoring in business administration. I am a Stephen Dorfman scholar, and I am also a School of Management brand ambassador for the unscripted sector. Thank you for having me.
Hi everyone, my name is Tika. I'm a junior here at CLU. I'm a business major with an emphasis in marketing and a minor in innovation and entrepreneurship, and I'm also a member of the men's soccer team here at CLU. We're going to be giving away some pretty cool prizes tonight at the end, so make sure you guys stick around to have a chance to win. And now I'd like to introduce Dean Gerhard to welcome our keynote speaker, faculty, and students.
Okay, sounds great. So, very good evening, everybody. So my name is Gerhard. I'm your dean. I was also a business administration major about a couple of centuries ago. Back then, when I was in college, nobody really cared if you showed up or didn't show up, and nobody helped you really find your career path. And I'm really proud that we have this tradition here at the School of Management to give you not only this opportunity tonight, but many opportunities to meet with Cal Lutheran alums. Should get away from the speaker, I guess. Cal Lutheran alums, some of our community members, advisory council members, faculty members, to provide answers to you for the questions that you never dared to ask, or the questions that you never got answers to in your classes. We have a great lineup of table hosts and discussants for you, and we have a wonderful speaker today who also came to us courtesy of one of your fellow alums, Mikey Sheridan, who wanted to be here today with you, but unfortunately is down with the flu. Mikey introduced me to Timmy. And not only that, but Mikey also made a special gift to the school. At this year's New Venture Fair on May 7th, we're not only giving out cash prizes, but he's also donating a free ticket to one of his retreats for the movers and shakers, for the upcoming entrepreneurs, the ones who move up the career ladder in Mexico. It's a fully paid retreat for one of the winners at the New Venture Fair. So if you haven't entered yet, please do so. Great prizes there. But now I think you didn't come here to hear from me. You came to hear from Timmy the Dreamer.
You going? Am I going? One sec. You go. You can go first. You can go first. 2 seconds.
Thank you, Dean Gerhard. And before we begin tonight, I'd like to briefly talk about what the PATHS program is about. So by engaging this event, we are aiming to kind of help students develop their own paths to professionalism. We hope to help you all accomplish tonight by hearing from both of our keynote speaker as well as our guests. This may include skills like and abilities that they have found valuable within their employers or industries with their experience. This could also be value of networking opportunities that they've experienced, as well as how to navigate through barriers to find their success and happiness throughout their careers. Lastly, I want to remind you all that we will be running that raffle, as we mentioned at the end, and there will be 3 winners, and we would love your feedback on this event.
Hi everybody, I'm Erin again. It's great to be here tonight. Really quickly, we're just going to go over the agenda. So starting in about a couple minutes here, we're going to have the keynote speaker and workshop by Timmy the Dreamer, followed by the alumni roundtables, which will be about 4 sessions, 15 minutes each. Then we're going to have our survey and raffle, and then we'll close up at 7:30, and you have a chance to network. So really quickly, I would like to say thank you to all of my colleagues within the School of Management for helping to plan this incredible event, and also a big thank you to our keynote speaker and all of the alumni leads who have joined us today. This event would not be possible without all of your engagement and support over the past 25 years. So to start off this event, I would like to introduce our fantastic keynote speaker, Timmy the Dreamer. Round of applause, please. Beautiful, thank you. So Timmy the Dreamer is a youth keynote speaker. He's founder of Dreamer State University and a former manager of one of the biggest social media influencers in Los Angeles. Together, they built a social media following of about 9 million followers, made over 1,000 dreams come true for kids with cancers, disabilities, and kids needing a miracle. They've also collaborated with a bunch of celebrities that you guys know, stemming from Oprah, Steph Curry, Mr. Beast, Jake Paul, and MGK. He's here today to talk to you guys about how you can turn your dreams into a reality, both in your time here at CLU and for your future. Please give it up for Timmy the Dreamer.
This piece of paper changed my life. I was 21 years old. I was still in college. I had no idea what path I wanted to take in life. But this piece of paper changed my life. This piece of paper is the reason that we built a social media following of 9 million people. This piece of paper is the reason that we sold paintings to Oprah. This piece of paper is the reason that we collaborated with celebrities like Steph Curry and Mr. Beast and MGK and Jake Paul. And where are my Jake Paul haters at? Yeah, okay, we got a few. We got a few. This piece of paper is the reason that we traveled all around the world changing thousands of lives. This piece of paper is truthfully the reason that I'm standing in front of you today. This piece of paper changed my life. And I think today this piece of paper could just change your life too. The date was August 15th, 2018. It was the last day of my last ever student internship in college. And this was that important internship, right? The internship after your junior year, where everybody tells you this is the job that you're going to take after you graduate, and this is what you're going to do for the rest of your life. The problem for me is at that point in my journey, my life wasn't exactly going as planned. Let me explain a little bit. My first plan in life, the first path I was going to take was my childhood dream, which was to be an NBA player. My idols were Kobe Bryant. My idols were Michael Jordan. My idols were LeBron James. The problem? There was one thing that me and these guys clearly didn't have in common. It's pretty obvious, isn't it? They were a lot taller than me. I was 5'8" at the time, 5'10" now, let's go. Couldn't touch the rim. My body obviously was not built to be a professional NBA player. But my mind didn't know this, right? And so I put 110% of my time as a kid into my only dream for life, my only path for life to become this NBA player. And as my time in high school comes to an end, I realized that my only dream, my only plan for life wasn't going to work out. And honestly, I felt like a failure. And when I looked to my future as to, well, what is my life really going to look like after high school? It was a lot of this, a lot of question marks. And now some of you in this room today might have had a childhood dream. It might have not been basketball. It might have been a different sport. It might have been in music. It might have been an activity that you love. But a lot of you might have felt the same way when you were leaving high school, coming to college saying, I really don't know what I want to do with my life. And dang, a lot of you might still feel that same way today. And let me tell you how I tried to answer this question. Because at the time, I remember I felt like a failure. But more importantly, I didn't want my friends to think I was a failure. I didn't want my family to think I was a failure. I didn't want my teachers to think I was a failure. And so I thought to myself, well, instead of finding the next thing that I really want to do, I got to just find something as fast as I possibly can just so I can tell others that I have a plan. And the fastest thing that I could possibly think of was, well, I'll just go do what my dad did. My dad was this big, successful business guy, worked in like insurance and finance, and I said, well, I'm good at math, and if I just go do what my dad did, then there you go. There's my second plan for life. All right, I figured it out. I'm telling everybody else my plan, and I've got it all figured out. And so I decided to go to the University of Wisconsin, join the business school. I studied hard. I got good grades. I did the internships. I took a lot of phone calls when I was there. I'm just messing with you. I joined the investment banking club. I did all the things that I thought that I was supposed to do to be just like my dad. And yet, as my 4 years in college was about to come to an end, everybody else thought that I was crushing it and that things were going great. But deep down, I started to have serious doubts that this was the true path that I was supposed to take in life. And that pressure started to build. That stress started to build. That anxiety started to build. If I'm about to graduate, I still don't really know what I want to do. And then one day before my senior year of college, something happened that had never happened before in my entire life. I went home. I was sitting in my bed. My friends and I were supposed to go out that night. And I was just going to sit down and rest for a bit. When I sat in my bed, I can remember this like it was yesterday. My whole body froze. It was the first time in my life that I ever had an anxiety attack. All of that pressure, all that stress, it finally caught up to me. My phone started ringing. My friends were like, yo, Timmy, where you at, bro? We're going out, man. Where you at? And I said, sorry, guys, something came up. I can't make it. And they didn't know that I was laying in bed and I couldn't move. For the next 18 months, anxiety controlled my life. For me, it was tightness in my chest and tightness in my stomach. For me, it was not wanting to get out of bed a lot of mornings. For me, it was just thinking that I wonder if these emotions are going to last forever. And maybe some of you can relate in your own way to the stress or the anxiety that might come with trying to feel like you have to find the perfect plan for life right now. And that was all leading up to August 15th, 2000. Oh yeah, this is my graduation day. Not as exciting as one would think, right? This was all leading up to August 15, 2018. Like I said, it was the last day of my last ever internship as a student. And I had a one-on-one meeting that day with the CEO of the company, CEO, founder. His name was Dale. And I went into Dale's office, and I could have lied. I could have said, Dale, you know what, I appreciate the opportunity to work here, and I would love to come back and work for your company full time. But I said, you know what, man, I'm just going to be vulnerable. I said, Dale, I got to be real with you, man. I'm struggling. I'm struggling with my mental health and anxiety. I'm struggling trying to figure out what I want to do with my life. And I said, Dale, you know what? I refuse to believe that my time playing basketball in high school was my peak. I said, I'm just trying to find something that feels as exciting and meaningful to me as basketball did. And I said, you're this big successful guy, man, multi-millionaire, founder. You got the house on the lake, which I'm from Minnesota, so that's like the Minnesota dream. You got the house on the lake, you're crushing it. I said, dude, I do have some dreams that I've never told anybody before. I'd love to start a business like you one day. I'd love to maybe travel the world for work. I would love to really help people, like use business to make a positive impact in the world. I said, Dale, what kind of advice do you have for me as I'm about to start this next chapter in my life? And I remember I thought that Dale was going to give me some big inspirational, motivational, go after your dreams type speech like I guess I'm giving you today. But instead, he looked me right in the eyes and he told me 4 words I'll never forget. He said, Timmy, you can't do that. I said, what? He said, Timmy, you're just a student, man. How do you expect to start a business? You have no experience. How do you expect to travel? You have no money. How do you expect to help people? It sounds like you've got to learn how to help yourself right now, kid. He said, I know this isn't what you want to hear, but it's time for you to grow up, and it's time for you to start being more realistic about what your life is really going to look like. This is an actual real photo of Dale, by the way. Man, in that moment, I was devastated. Here I was sharing my dreams for the first time with a big, successful multimillionaire telling me that the dreams that I had for my life weren't possible. And once again, I felt like a failure. And I go home that night, and it's one of those nights that you're laying in bed and you just can't sleep. And hours are passing, and as I have my eyes closed and I'm laying in bed, all I see is Dale sitting across from me saying, Timmy, you can't do that. Timmy, you can't do that. Timmy, you can't do that. And it's midnight, and it's 1 a.m., and it's 2 a.m., and it's 3 a.m. And I remember it's almost 4 in the morning when I checked my phone, and finally I just decided to take a deep breath where I... And I remember in that moment of pause, another voice popped into my head. And it was a voice that was saying the opposite of what Dale was telling me. And it said, Timmy, this guy's wrong, man. He doesn't really know you. He doesn't really know what you're capable of, the dreams that you can truly bring to life. And as I was laying in bed at 4 in the morning, talking to myself, I was getting angry. I wasn't angry at Dale, though. I was angry at myself. Because I realized that ever since I stopped playing basketball, I stopped dreaming. And I started to simply live my entire life based off of the expectations or opinions of others, and I was sick of it. That strategy wasn't working. So I decided to open my eyes, and I grabbed this piece of paper. I turned on the light, and I wrote down this. I said, I don't know what my dream life looks like or even what my purpose is on this earth, but today is the day I'm committing to living the life that I truly want to live and not the life that others want for me. Today is the day that I'm signing a lifetime contract with my dreams. And I signed it and I dated it August 15th, 2018. At the time, it didn't seem like that important of a decision, but looking back on it, this decision fundamentally changed my life forever. The reason why I went on to help build a social impact community of 9 million people and travel all across the world and meet all of these celebrities, which I know some of you might be from LA, but being from Minnesota, that doesn't happen. The reason why all these things ended up happening is I first made a decision to commit to going after what I truly wanted and not the life that others wanted for me. And it's cool that the theme of this event today is all about finding your path in life, because I now say that there's just 2 paths that we can all take in life. Sometimes we think there's hundreds, we think there's thousands, we think there's all these choices. I say there's 2 paths that we can all take in life. Path number 1 I now call the Dale's path. And to me, this is simply the life that other people want you to live, or what you feel pressured to do, or the path that others want you to take, but it's anything that is inauthentic to you or not in alignment with what you truly want. But path number 1 I now call the dreamer's path. And I believe this path is one of one. I think it's uniquely designed for each individual in this room based off of your own unique skill sets, talents, passions, desires, and for what you want most for your life. And lesson number 1 of my speech today, how do we discover what path we want to take? How do we know what we're supposed to do with our life? Well, step 1 is just to commit to going after the things that actually feel exciting and meaningful to us. And for me, the next morning after I signed that piece of paper, I was excited for a very brief second because I finally made the decision to start going after my dreams again. But there was a pretty big problem. I was about to graduate college. I had no job. I was going to move back in with my parents' house, and I really had no idea what to do next because basketball dream didn't work. Be like my dad didn't work. So what's my third plan for life? And as I look back on it, there's 3 things that I did to help figure out what my next plan for life. The first thing I did is, I remember I asked myself a question. I said, well, Timmy, has there ever been another time in your life when you had no idea what was going on, but you still showed up, you took action, and good things happened anyways? And the only thing I could think of was, well, yeah, it's kind of like the first day of class. Because when you show up on the first day of class, are you expected to know anything on the first day? No, right? You're not expected. You just show up. You just show up and you say, all right, well, I'm going to study. I'm going to learn from the teacher. I'm going to take the practice test. And by the end of the year, I might not be an A+ student at this subject, but I'm definitely going to learn a little bit more than when I first started. And I remember thinking to myself, well, what if we treat this process of discovering and pursuing our dreams just like a class? Because the problem might not be when we're first starting our journeys as students or young adults that we don't have all of the answers and the perfect plan for life. The problem might be the pressure we put on ourselves to have it all figured out before we've even really started the journey. And I knew I didn't have it figured out. I was graduating and moving in with my parents and had no job, and so I said, screw it. I'm going to stop pretending to be perfect, and I'm just going to focus on showing up, taking an action every day, learning from everything, and treating everything like the first day of class. And so the first thing I did is I took out a Word document on my computer. I wrote down Dreamology. I made a fun name for it. I said, I'm going to study how to make my dreams come true. And I've actually written down everything I've tried, everything I've learned, every person I met, every place that I've been. And this document is now 300 pages. But when I started the document, I asked myself a question that I wish that we would all ask ourselves way sooner in life. And I said, Timmy, what's your dream, man? And again, I couldn't specifically answer it. I couldn't say, like when I was younger, I want to go to the NBA. But if I was allowing myself to be broad, allowing myself to be at the first day of class, I could write some things down. Because I knew I wanted to be happy, because I was struggling with my mental health and anxiety. I knew I wanted to find new friends, not because I didn't have any. I was captain of my basketball team, president of my fraternity in college, but I wanted friends that matched my future, that had aligned interests with what I truly wanted to do with my life. And I knew I wanted to discover my purpose. So then I wrote down, I want to help people, I want to travel, I want to start a business. And the second thing I decided to do here is I decided to just start to share these dreams with other people. Now, a lot of people will tell you to not share your dreams. Because if you share your true dreams, what if somebody like Dale comes in and says, hey man, I wouldn't do that. That's a stupid idea. That's a bad dream. I don't know if I would chase that. And you lose the courage to go after it. And I get it because I had a lot of people like that in my life when I was your age. There was Dale. There was a lot of my friends who didn't really understand what I was trying to do. A lot of my family who didn't really understand what I was trying to do. And it was fair because I really didn't understand what I was trying to do either, but I kept sharing my dreams because I told myself, you know what? There's got to be somebody else out there who has similar dreams as me who can help support me on this journey. And what I know now is that all it takes is one person. Like where you guys are at in your journey right now, all it takes is really one person. One person to believe in you, one person to give you an opportunity, just one person. And so we don't need to focus on the 99% that might not fully understand what you want. We just have to find that one person that is going to give you a chance to go after what you really want. And for me, that person just happened to be my brother. Because my brother's 5 years older than me. And he came to me one day and he said, Timmy, he said, I want to start a business too. He said, I want to be a full-time videographer. He said, what if me, you, some of our friends, we sit down on this Monday night, and for the first time in our lives, we actually talk about what are our true dreams and goals, and how can we actually help each other? And at the time, that was a foreign concept for me because the only combos that my friends had when we were growing up were pretty much what sports we were playing and what girls we were dating at the time. And so sitting down and actually talking about our dreams and goals, it was like, wow, yeah, that's a great idea. Let's do it. And so we met up. We sat down, and we all had a chance to actually share what we truly want in life. And it was the first time in our lives when I shared my dreams that people said, yes, you can, not no, you can't. And I remember it was life-changing for me. That group, we met up every single Monday night that summer. And, you know, that group honestly taught me something so important because I realized that simply by having the right people on our journey, it's almost just as important as which path we decide to take in life. If it wasn't for my brother saying, hey man, I believe in you, I got you, I'm gonna support you, there's no way that I would have ended up doing any of the things that I did. So who we surround ourselves with matters. People who wanna uplift us and support us and believe in our dreams, that matters. And so as we're discovering what path we wanna take in life, I always tell people, find somebody that can truly hold you accountable to achieving the things that you actually wanna achieve. Someone you can talk to on a frequent basis, every single week, checking in. Yo, did you do what you said you're gonna do? Yo, how's it going? Yo, how's this happening? Because honestly, if it wasn't for that, I would have never achieved all these different things. That was the second thing. And the last thing was this. Ever since that anxiety attack, the 18 months after I graduated, I was waking up every single day with anxiety. And I didn't know what to do about it, because I'd always been this happy guy. I mentioned I was captain of the basketball team, president of the fraternity. People would look at me like, oh, this guy's like, he's got no issues, no problems. And I was always, hey, I'm good, man, I'm good, life's good. And deep down, I was really struggling. And I didn't know what to do about it. But after 18 months of feeling like that and waking up every single day feeling this anxiety, I said, you know what, man, I gotta go get help. I gotta have just a little bit of vulnerability and courage and say, let me just actually go get help with this. And I decided to hire a mindfulness coach, which is basically a therapist who uses the tools of meditation to help you with your mental health and well-being. And she told me something one day that ended up fundamentally changing my view on anxiety and mental health forever. And she asked me just a very simple question. She said, Timmy, when do you feel most anxious in life? And at first, I didn't know how to answer the question. But when I sat back and we talked about it and I thought about it, I realized, I said, well, you know what, Jess? The times that I feel most anxious in my life are the time when I'm on the wrong path, when I'm on the Dale's path, when I'm doing things that aren't true to me. Because I said when I was trying to be like my dad, I felt super anxious. When I was playing basketball as a kid, I didn't. When I was hanging out with the wrong crowd of people, I felt anxious. When I was hanging out with these people that really supported me, I didn't. When I had a smile on my face and was trying to be the happy guy all the time, I actually felt more anxious. But when I was just being myself, I didn't. I said, Jess, this is a long story. I said, Jess, when I was dating that girl that lived in Canada, I felt really anxious. She wasn't the one. I said, but when we broke up, I felt better. And she said, Timmy, look at this. She said, are you noticing what you're saying right now? Your anxiety is actually kind of trying to speak to you. It's trying to tell you, like it's like a warning sign. You know that feeling? Who here has ever done something they know they're not supposed to do? Oh, come on, everybody, yeah, okay. You know that feeling you get in your stomach? That's like, ooh, I know I'm not supposed to do this, but here we go. That was happening for me just on a massive level. It was yelling at me like, yo, dude, you're on the wrong path. You're doing the wrong things. And so she said, Timmy, if you still feel anxious, where in your life are you still on the wrong path? And I said, Jess, well, it's in my work. I really want to help people. I really want to start a business. I really want to travel. And she said, all right, well, tell me more. And I said, well, I don't really know exactly what I want to do, but I do know this one thing. I said, meeting with this group of guys on a Monday night and just talking about our dreams, it changed my life. And I said, I wonder if there's thousands, if not millions of people out there who also would want a community or a space to talk about their dreams with. I said, what if I just like start a company all about supporting people's dreams? And she said, all right, Timmy, well, where could you start? And I said, well, I don't know. I guess I could maybe launch Dreamology as like a podcast, and I could interview successful people and share their lessons and stories, and I could just start there. She said, all right, Timmy, I want you to go home, and I want you to start today. And so I go home, back to my childhood bedroom, and I launched this podcast, and it is not as fancy as it sounds. Don't picture some big fancy studio. This is like me in my childhood bedroom in Plymouth, Minnesota. Anybody from Minnesota? All right, yeah, I assume nobody's been to Plymouth, Minnesota. Middle of nowhere, in my childhood bedroom, recording on like a $40 microphone from Amazon, and my mom had just retired. So I had a big sign on my door that said, Mom, please stop talking. I'm trying to record an interview. I'm living at home. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm showing up. I'm taking action, and I recorded over 100 episodes in a year just sitting in my bedroom. And then one day, as I'm scrolling social media, trying to figure out who to interview next, I come across this photo. And I remember seeing this, and I was like, wait a second. What's going on here? I see this big RV called the Dream Machine, and there's this guy named Charlie Rocket, and he's literally traveling the country, making dreams come true for people in need. I kind of call it like a Make-A-Wish Foundation on wheels of sorts. Like, it's the easiest way to describe it. But he's traveling all across the country. He's throwing events for people to chase their dreams. He's raising money for kids with cancer and homeless people and people who truthfully like need support and need a miracle. And he also had this sponsor, this company called Dreamer, which was literally a social media app to connect people who had similar dreams. And so when I saw this, I was like, wait a second, this guy is doing everything that I said that I wanted to do, but he's just like 5-10 years ahead of me on this journey. Who is this guy? And so I remember I looked into him when I said, who is Charlie Rocket? And he was like this former music manager, multi-millionaire, managed some of the biggest music artists in the world when I was your age, which was 2 Chainz and Travis Porter and Soulja Boy, like Atlanta hip-hop music scene. And I don't know if you guys know any of these songs, but if you do, you can repeat after me. But Travis Porter's biggest song ever was, Okay Now Ladies. And I mean, we all know Soulja Boy. I know he's got some new interesting songs, right? But back in the day, you know, Crank That was like the biggest song in the world. So I'm like, this guy is the reason that this was some of the biggest music in the world. And now he's traveling and making dreams come true and doing exactly what I said I wanted to do. I said, I got to meet this guy. And, you know, I think there comes a point in our journey where I say, the best things in our lives, the best things in my life happen when I step outside of my comfort zone. At this point, I knew I had to get out of my parents' house. I knew I had to do something bold. And so I called my brother and I said, Tyler, crazy idea. Charlie's going to be in Wisconsin on his tour. It's like 6 hours from where I was living. I know you guys don't know the Midwest all that well. 6-hour drive to Wisconsin. I said, dude, grab your camera. We're going to drive 6 hours. We're going to meet this guy. We're just going to volunteer our time. You can take photos and videos. I'll just help set up for his event. Like whatever. I'll be like his assistant. I don't even care. Let's just show up and help him. So my brother was down. Again, surround yourself with people who are going to say yes to your crazy ideas. We hop in the car. We drive 6 hours. We meet Charlie and we hit it off. Charlie's taking photos and videos. I'm helping set up for his event, helping take down. And we actually didn't sleep for 2 days straight because Charlie wanted to make all these videos. And we were like, well, we got 72 hours. We got to make the most of this. And so we're making these videos. We're showing up. And by the end of the weekend, you know, we're shaking his hand. And he's like thanking us for the hard work we put in. And we're thanking him for letting us be a part of what he's doing. But then, you know, he's going on this tour towards New York. And we think, oh, well, we're going to head back to Minnesota. And we think that's going to be the end of the story. And I get back to my childhood bedroom, and I'm sitting back there. And then 3 days later, my phone rings. And it's Charlie. And I answer it. And Charlie's a very animated guy, so I'm going to try to reenact this phone call. But I answer the phone, and he basically goes, Timmy! He said, I got an idea, bro. He said, me, you, your brother, let's go on tour. I remember being like, what? He said, me, you, your brother, let's go on tour, man. I said, dude, what are you talking about? He said, Timmy, no one's ever just drove 6 hours to meet me, didn't ask for anything, and just volunteered their time and cared so much about my mission and what I'm doing. He said, those are the kind of people that I want to work with. He said, what would you think about joining me on this 5-month tour across the country where we're literally going to travel the country, help people in need, and you're going to help me start this business and this movement? I remember being like, well, I got to ask my mom if I can go on tour, but I'm in. I couldn't believe it, though. Here I was being offered an opportunity to do everything that Dale told me would be impossible for my life, but not just alone with my biggest inspiration and my actual blood brother. When you step outside your comfort zone, the best things in your life can happen. So my brother and I hop on the Dream Machine with Charlie, and we start heading east towards New York. And I'm going to break this down very simply for you, because the idea behind what we were doing was basically this. Find people to help who had a dream, help them, share it online. Now, a lot of people say, well, why did you share it online? When you help people, aren't you supposed to just do it for the good of helping people? And yes, I agree with that, but we weren't sharing it to show off. We were sharing it because the idea was this. Social media can be such a tool for hate and separation and bullying. We thought to ourselves, well, what if we use social media as a tool for social impact? Because there's millions of students out there who would love to donate $5 to somebody or share something online. And so we said, what if we build this community all about helping make dreams come true for people in need? So we would share these stories online, and we would fundraise money, and we would, buy a single mother a new car who was biking 3 miles to work. Or there was a single mother in Miami who was about to lose her home, and so we fundraised money so her and her 4 kids could keep their home. So we were doing stuff like this all across the country for 5 months straight, and that was all leading to the time when we got to Los Angeles. And when we got to Los Angeles, there was 2 things that happened that took our movement to a whole nother level. The first was the Dreamer House. Now, at the time, the Content House was like a really big thing. I'm sure you guys, people would live together, dance, make videos, but it was kind of superficial, right? There was no real purpose to it. And so the founder of Dreamer, that social media app that I told you guys about, his name was Chris. Chris had an idea. He said, guys, what if we start a content house, but instead of just dancing and having fun, what if we get all these influential people together to make dreams come true for other people in need? He said, would you guys be down? Of course, we were like, well, yes, 100%. We now had this headquarters in one of the biggest cities in the world to help make dreams come true for people in need. So it's great for our movement, but for me personally, I was also thinking, man, I was just in my parents' house for 18 months to an RV for 5 months to now living in a $5 million mansion in Hollywood Hills. I was like, man, when you step outside of your comfort zone, the craziest things can happen. And the second that happened when we got to Los Angeles is that we met Richard. This was the first dream that we did right when we moved into that home. And I remember when we moved into the home, we said, guys, we had a challenge for ourselves. We said, guys, we've got to do what we called the biggest dream yet. We said, we just moved to the city where people literally move to chase their dreams. We've got to do something so big, so inspiring, that it inspires the entire world to chase their dreams. And so when we met Richard, he was sitting on a grocery cart, sitting outside of Ralph's. And we said, hey man, what's your name and what's your dream? He said, my name's Richard, and my dream is to have my art hanging on the walls of a museum one day. He said, I'm a homeless street artist. He said, nobody appreciates my art, but if my art was hanging on the walls, people could appreciate it. He said, that would be my dream. And so we're talking to this guy, and we're realizing this might be our guy. This might be our biggest dream yet. And so we go back to the house, the Dreamer House, and we're sitting there, and we're like, all right, guys, what can we do for Richard? But we have one rule for this conversation, no limitations. We don't care if it's the craziest idea. We don't care if it's something we've never done before. Just throw out any idea you can possibly think of. So we're throwing out ideas like, well, what if we build him a website? And what if we get national news to cover Richard's story? And what if we throw him a sold-out art show? And what if we get these celebrities and influencers to buy his paintings? And what if we get Oprah to buy a painting? And we're just throwing out all these ideas, things that we had never done before. Could we do it? We didn't know. But we figured there was only one way to find out. And in the next 3 weeks, this is exactly what happened. We launched Richard's website. And we ended up selling $250,000 worth of art. We threw him a sold-out art show in Beverly Hills where over 750 people showed up to support Richard. Somebody at the art show even bought an original painting for $23,000, one painting. Richard's story is featured all over national news, including shows like the Steve Harvey Show. Richard's story got over 1 billion views on social media platforms in 30 days. And the cherry on top of all of it is that on a live interview, Oprah Winfrey herself surprised us and even bought an original painting for $5,000. I mean, everything that we said that we wanted to make happen, happened. And I remember when this dream was over, I was reflecting, saying, oh my gosh, Richard's dream just came true on the biggest level. But I was thinking about my dream in that moment, thinking, wow, my dreams just came true too. Because me back in Minnesota, writing on a silly little piece of paper saying, I'm going to commit to going after what I want, living at home, showing up every day, taking little actions, learning from everything, surrounding myself with the right people, having the courage to get help with my mental health, all these little things, stepping out of my comfort zone, it all led to me being able to experience all the things I've ever wanted to experience in my life. And for you guys as well, I believe the same thing can happen for you too. It's going to take some courage, but if you believe in your dreams and you take action towards them every single day and you don't stop until they happen, then everything is possible for your life too. And I want to share with you one more story of somebody that we helped. And this is on our second tour across America. This tour was called the $1 Million Road Trip. We were traveling from Los Angeles to Miami, all across the country, and the idea of this tour was give away $1 million to dreamers in need across the country. And the first dream we did on this tour was in East Los Angeles, and it was a kid by the name of Mathew. And when we met Mathew, he told us that his dream in life was to be able to walk. Mathew had cerebral palsy. The doctors told him that he'd never be able to walk a day in his life. Something that we all take for granted every single day. And so we asked him, we said, Mathew, if you could do anything for a living, what would you want to do? And he said, well, I want to have my own inspirational clothing line. I want to inspire people to never give up no matter what they're going through. And so we helped Mathew launch his clothing brand, and we ended up selling $250,000 of clothing in just 4 hours. In total, we sold almost $400,000 of clothing for Mathew. And we even had celebrities like Akon, Kevin Hart, and Mike Tyson wear and support Mathew's clothing. Again, Mathew's dream came true on the biggest level. But I don't share this story because of what happened here. I share this story because of what happened next. Because once we connected Mathew to his dream, I started to see how his energy changed. His mood changed, his motivation changed, his passion for life changed. And his mom called me one day and said, Timmy, you won't believe this. Mathew is getting up every single day training towards his ultimate goal of being able to walk. Day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. It's now been almost 3 years since this moment. In December, I went to go get dinner with him and his family in East LA, and I said, Mathew, how you doing, man? And he said, I got to show you a video. And he pulled out his phone and he showed me a video of him for the first time in his life. He's using the handrail, but the first time in his life, he's walking down the stairs in his own home. And when I saw that video, I was like, that is the power of chasing a dream. Because chasing a dream isn't always about what we're going to accomplish, because we're not always going to accomplish the thing. I didn't go to the NBA. My career path to be like my dad didn't work out. Things aren't always going to work out the way that we think they are, but who we become as we pursue things that are meaningful to us, that's what it's all about. And I got to see how kids like Mathew all across the country, we connected them to their dreams, how their energy could change, their mood could change, their mental health could change, their physical health could change, and how when they chased a dream, the best version of themselves came to the table. And as cool as all this stuff was that we were doing from the celebrities and the national news and the views, none of that mattered, to be honest. None of it mattered. The truth is that the best part was that there was no greater joy than helping make somebody else's dream come true. And at the end of this tour, I remember thinking to myself, you know what? Maybe we got it all wrong. Because when we're thinking about what path to take in life, what we should do with our lives, we often think about all the things that we can get when we take that path. But maybe the path that we take in life is really about how many lives can I impact on this path? How much can I give on this path? Maybe the secret to living a fulfilling and meaningful life has nothing to do with what we can give, but all about what we can give to others. Because I believe that every single day we can all wake up and make somebody else's life better. And no, it doesn't need to be hundreds of thousands of dollars. It can be checking on your friend, your families. It can be doing something nice for your teacher. It can be pursuing a project or a job or a career that feels meaningful to you, that can make a positive impact in other people's lives. But I now say that we can all either be a Dale or a dreamer in somebody else's life. I think the Dale is somebody who tears other people down, who kills other people's dreams, who makes other people feel small so we can feel bigger. But the dreamer is somebody who goes out of the way to help others, to use their gifts to make the world a better place. And I got to see how, ironically, when we commit our lives to helping others, that all of our dreams can come true in the process. I got to experience this. Richard got to experience this. Mathew, all people got to experience it. And again, I believe you can experience this too if you decide to live a life of service and a life of meaning. And honestly, at this point in my life, once again, I thought I had figured it out. Just how when I was a kid, I was convinced I was going to be a basketball player the rest of my life. I was then convinced I was going to be just like my dad the rest of my life. I was convinced that I was going to be working with Charlie and Dream Machine the rest of my life. I finally did it. 26 years old, I can kick the feet up now. This is what I'm going to do the next 30 years. And then one day, I'm sitting at a Starbucks on Sunset Boulevard in West Hollywood. I just finished my morning workout. I was about to hop on a phone call with a billionaire, one of our biggest donors. Life was good. And my phone rings. And it's Charlie again. And, at this point, Charlie and I were boys, so I tried to match his energy. I said, Charlie, what's up, man? It's going to be a good day, baby. He said, hey, Timmy. I said, you good, man? What's going on? He said, you hear about Chris? As a reminder, Chris was the founder of Dreamer, the social media app that sponsored the tours and the Dreamer House, and he was one of our best friends at this point. I said, no, man, what happened? Like bad business deal or like what's up? Like what's going on? You're freaking me out. He said he's dead, bro. "33 years old, wife, 6-year-old kid, died of an asthma attack in his own front lawn. Nobody was around." Anybody here ever lost somebody that you love? Friend, family member? It's one of the hardest feelings that there is. And unfortunately, on top of grieving losing one of our best friends, there was also some business implications of this, because most people didn't know, but for those 4 years I worked with Charlie, every single Tuesday, 11 a.m., Chris and I would hop on the phone, and we would talk about taking this Dreamology concept and putting it into his app, hundreds of thousands of users, and helping educate people how to chase their dreams. We would talk about building Dreamer Labs at college campuses across the country, giving kids resources to chase their dreams. We would talk about going to schools together and speaking on stages, talking to kids about chasing their dreams. And when Chris died, it felt like a big part of that mission and what we wanted to do together died with it. And even though we were still doing such cool things, we did a dream with MGK in Washington and Steph Curry in San Francisco for the NBA Finals, and Mr. Beast for a young girl with cancer in LA, and Jake Paul with a young kid who wanted to be a boxer. I started to lose motivation to show up. And then for the second time in my life, I had an anxiety attack. Living in this mansion, got all these different things, and I'm laying in bed again and I can't move once again. I thought that I just had it all figured out. But this time, truthfully, it was different. Because when the anxiety came back this time, I knew I had the tools to deal with it. I've been meeting with Jess every single month, talking about these things, and I knew that this meant something was off. And so I went to talk to Charlie, and I said, Charlie, is there any way that we could build this Dreamology stuff into what we're doing with Dream Machine? Because I feel really called to it. Like there's all these kids out there that have dreams that we could help chase. I said, could we build this into our plan? And unfortunately, that conversation went very similar to that initial conversation with Dale. He said, Timmy, we're not going to do that. And rightfully so, it wasn't his dream. It was my dream. But he said, I don't see this being a part of what we're doing here with Dream Machine. And so I had a choice to make. I had to go back to the piece of paper and say, well, did I sign a contract to work with Charlie Rocket the rest of my life, or did I sign a contract to go after the things that feel exciting and meaningful to me? And so in that moment, as hard as it was, I decided to walk away. But for the first time in my life, as a chapter was coming to an end, as a path was coming to an end, I didn't feel like a failure. Because I started to realize that, you know what, maybe our lives are just like a book. Because the reality is every single chapter of our lives is going to have beginning and an end. Think about it. Elementary school, beginning, end. Middle school, beginning, end. High school, beginning, end. College will have a beginning and end. Whatever your first job is will probably have a beginning. Everything will have a beginning and end. But maybe each chapter is there to teach us what matters to us, what we like, what we don't like, help us build useful skills, help us build meaningful relationships, help us become the person that we're ultimately created to be. Maybe nothing is a failure. Maybe my time playing basketball wasn't a failure. I never could dunk, but maybe that wasn't a failure. Maybe my time being like my dad wasn't a failure. Maybe my time living at home wasn't a failure. Maybe my time working with Charlie wasn't a failure. Maybe it all had purpose. It all was taking me somewhere. Because then there's this misconception that right now you're going to choose something. You're going to choose like a major or a job, and that it's just going to be one thing for the rest of your life. And for some of you, that might be the case. But for most of us, it's not. For most of us, we have to try things and experiment and explore until we find what we really want with our lives. And we can't predict the events that are going to happen in our lives. I couldn't predict Chris dying. If Chris didn't die, who knows? Maybe I'll still be with Charlie. We do that, but things happen. Life happens. All we can really control is how we show up today, how we make the most of the rest of our times here at school right now. How are you showing up? How are you impacting your community here? Are you chasing things that are exciting and meaningful to you right now? Because if you do that every single step of your journey, I promise you, you're going to end up exactly where you're supposed to be. And I'm not just sharing this with you and not walking the walk, because leaving Charlie was hard. That was me having the courage to go after what I really want. And I'm on this mission now to give a speech in every single state at schools across the country. That's my new dream. That's my new dream. But the truth is that I'm just like you. I was just talking to one of the other hosts tonight, one of the other leaders of the discussions, and we both said, hey, we're always all figuring it out. We're just at different parts in the journey. And I remember when I was younger, I thought that at some point I was going to just crack the code. I was going to just figure everything out. But I'm starting to think that maybe that's not the purpose of life. Because I met thousands of people from all walks of life on this journey, from homeless people to billionaires, from wannabe musicians to some of the biggest musicians on earth. And if there was one thing that every single human being had in common, it's that nobody had completely cracked the code on life. Nobody didn't struggle with something, face an adversity, face a challenge, face an obstacle. Nobody. And when I stepped back and I realized, I said, wait a second, nobody's perfect? Not the celebrity, not the influencer, not the beautiful person online with 10 million followers. Nobody is perfect? Well, then maybe it takes us back to those two paths that we can all take in life. Because we can either be over here and tell ourselves, oh, well, you know what, man, I'm imperfect and I'm flawed and I struggle and I have insecurity, so maybe somebody else can chase their dreams, but not me. No, I'm going to just stay over here where it feels nice and safe. Or we could tell ourselves, hey, man, I'm imperfect, I'm flawed, I struggle, I'm human, but I'm going to go after my dreams anyways. Because it seems like the people who achieve their dreams in life aren't the people who are perfect. It's the people who decide to accept their imperfections and go after what they want anyways. And because I signed that piece of paper on August 15th, 2018, I've got to list some of my biggest dreams in life, and I'm 28 years old. Am I perfect? No. Do I struggle with things? Yes. We can talk about it after. But I've gotten to list some of my biggest dreams in life. And I've gotten to learn these lessons. These lessons on how can any of us discover our dreams and make them a reality in our life. Lesson number one, I now say, is to sign the dreamer contract. And to me, a dreamer is just somebody who has the courage to go after the life they truly want to live. You first have just to commit to going after the things that you really want. Lesson number two is to become a student of dreamology. What does that mean? Stop trying to be perfect. Treat every day like the first day of class. Show up, take an action step, and learn from everything, and repeat the process. Lesson number three, I say find your dream mates. Those are the people who are going to truly support your dreams and be there for you on this journey, because you can't do this journey alone. Lesson number four, I say prioritize happiness. Man, I wasn't going to share this story today, but I met a billionaire once, and we're driving in his Ferrari, and he's telling me a story about the day that he found out he was worth $100 million. He had a pistol in his hand, ready to take his own life. He said, man, I never cared about prioritizing my happiness, my well-being, and things that were truly going to fill me up. What point is it to get all the things that we really want with our lives if we're not happy and not taking care of ourselves? So I say happiness needs to be a priority. That might mean therapy. It might mean meditation. It might mean going to the gym. It might be finding a mentor, whatever that looks like for you to make sure you're taking care of yourself. And lesson number five, the secret of living is giving. That there's no greater joy than helping make other people's dreams come true. And we do that, ironically, all of our dreams can come true in the process. And the last thing I want to share with you today is this. If you walk out of these doors today and you forget everything that we talked about today, literally everything slips your mind, I want you to remember just this one thing. And it's that most people don't get to experience their dreams in life. Most people don't. And we know this because there was a study done. There was a study done on the number one regret of people who are about to lose their life, terminally ill people. And they said, hey, when you look back on your life, what do you regret most? And you know what's crazy? Is that 76% of people said the exact same thing. 3 out of 4 people said the exact same thing. They said, I wish I had the courage to live a life true to myself and not the life that others wanted for me. I wish I had the courage to live a life true to myself and not the life that others wanted for me. And if I had one goal today, one goal at all, is that nobody in this room ends up a part of that statistic. Nobody in this room gets to the end of their life and is like, dang, man, I wish I would have the courage to go after my dreams. It's going to be scary. You're going to be afraid. My challenge for you is to have the courage to do it anyways. And where do we start this journey? Well, for me, it all started with this piece of paper. This piece of paper that changed my life, a commitment that I made to going after what I really want with my life. This piece of paper that I believe today could change your life too. And as you can see, you all have a Dreamer contract sitting in front of you. And before we touch it, I actually want to do something. It's going to be a little bit weird, but can everybody just close your eyes for a second? Just trust me on this. Just everybody, I can see if your eyes are open too. I want you to do something real quick. I want you to imagine all those things that you felt pressure to do, the person that you felt pressure to be, the path that you felt pressure to take. And just for a second, I want you to imagine a garbage can in your brain, and I want you to just throw all that stuff in the garbage can for a second. And I want you to open up your brain to the question, what are my true dreams? And before we go to the future, I want to focus on the rest of your time here at school. When you think about the dreams or goals that you have for the rest of your time here, what comes up for you? It might be how you want to show up in the classroom. It might be the activities you want to do. It might be the friendships you want to make. It might be the kind of impact and legacy you want to leave here. But I'm going to give you about 60 seconds. I want you to just think about what dreams or goals do I have before I leave CLU? And also my challenge for you is to start to share these dreams with others, whether it's your friends or your family or your teachers or the people in this room here tonight. Practice sharing these dreams because you never know. Maybe somebody in this room could be that person that could help you make that dream come true. And the last thing I want to say is this, I would love to hear all of your dreams. On the back of the piece of paper is my Instagram. You guys can message me at any time. I'll be here the rest of the night if you want to ask me any questions, hang out, talk. But I'm truly here to support you on your journey. So if you have any questions, please ask me. And the last thing I'll say is this. Remember, your dreams don't have to be big or small. They just have to be yours. CLU, thank you. I appreciate you guys. Have a great night.